I am going to introduce the compound light microscope. On the back, you see here, there's a cord, and we're plugging the cord in. On the side of this microscope, you see here that there's a switch. You can turn this thing on, which we're doing. I tend to start out with the amount of light as high as it can be. You can see that the amount of light is changing maybe. And that's the adjustment of the amount of light. You can kick it back a little bit less than maximum light if you're light sensitive, but otherwise there's other ways of adjusting the amount of light, especially when you're looking at something that isn't stained or looking at something that's very small. So I like to walk through the microscope starting with the light source, which is right here. The light then goes through what's known as the condenser, which is right here. The condenser has an adjustment on it, and that adjustment adjusts the opening of what's known as the iris diaphragm. The light then goes to the objective lenses, and then from there it makes its way to the ocular lenses, which are right here. So if we start with the ocular lens right here, and I'm going to have to stand up in order to see this correctly. One of these lenses adjusts in and out like that. Somewhere on here, I guess yes, so if you adjust it all the way down to the bottom, then it will be the same focus as the other ocular lens. And unless you've got unless your eyes have two different prescriptions, you want to start out with this ocular lens here on the right, adjusted all the way down. The ocular lenses, the binocular microscope, we have two eyepieces. You're supposed to look through with both eyepieces. You can adjust the distance between your eyes, known as the interpupillary distance. In this case, doing that. So basically, as you go like that, you get a narrower distance or a smaller distance between your eyes, and you want to adjust it so that basically you're comfortable looking through both eyepieces. The light goes down to the objective lenses, which are right here. There are 4 different objective lenses. There is the 4x objective lens. There is the 10x objective lens. There is the 40x objective lens, also known as the high and dry. And there is the 100x objective lens, also known as the oil immersion. Now, in addition to that magnification, you also have 10x magnification associated with your ocular lenses up here. So when you see 4x objective right here, 4 times 10 is 40, so that's actually a 40-fold magnification. If we put that right there and raise the stage, which is this part here, all the way up, that is the point effect. And we close the diaphragm almost all the way, the iris diaphragm, using that little adjustment right there. That's more or less where we want to start when we are working with a specimen. So we can grab a slide. I've got some over here. So we can take our slide, and you can see there's a little thing here that moves. What we do is we put the slide into basically the slot that looks like it should hold the slide, and then close the clip like that. The slide should not be underneath the clip. It should be resting on the mechanical stage, and the clip should simply be resting on it and holding it in place. This thing here is called the stage that the slide is sitting on. It's called a mechanical stage because we can move around the slide using these dials right here. So we can move things around. So this is how you hold onto the slide on the stage, and this is how you adjust where the slide is. We can adjust where the slide is using the dials right here, so that basically the slide, the specimen on the slide is directly underneath the 4x objective lens. So with the stage all the way at the top, the specimen is probably going to be a little bit out of focus. So what you're going to do is, while you're looking through here, you're going to focus in on the specimen by just adjusting what's known as the coarse focus, this outer ring right here. Okay, it's not going to take much, and you'll get that into focus. I'm going to switch around to the 100x. Whoops, I can't do it because that's not in focus yet. That's a good indication there. Okay, so I'm going to move that down a little bit there. Now we're probably in focus. So let me actually show you what I just did. So that's where we started, and we went down about that much. Okay, so I'm moving the 100x objective in place here just momentarily, just to show you there's almost no space between 100x objective there and the slide itself, okay? I have seen plenty of people trying to focus things in where they can actually get their finger between the slide and the 100x objective. I mean, there's no way that's in focus. But where you've got things about right there, almost touching but not quite, that is going to be in focus. So this is what it looks like with the 4x objective in place. You can get your finger between the 4x objective and the slide. But that's not the point. The point is that you needed to go down just a little tiny bit from the maximum height of the stage in order to get the slide into focus. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to, having gotten that into focus, we switch to the 10x objective, which is right there, just by sliding over. So these microscopes are known as having parfocal lenses, objective lenses, which means that you should almost be in focus when you switch from the 4 to the 10x objective. So you can adjust the focus a little bit using the fine focus here. You'll have to adjust it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be by much. And then we can switch from, once it's in focus and once you've centered whatever it is you want to be looking at. Oh, I should say at this point that when you think you have something in focus, you should be moving around the mechanical stage a little bit. And if what you're moving around moves, it at least means that whatever you're looking at is associated with the slide. If it doesn't move, it means you've focused in on something else and you need to start all over again. Starting all over again, in fact, let's do that. We'll put the stage all the way as high as it will go. We'll adjust it a little bit going down until we, looking through the objective lenses, we see something sharp. We move the slide around a little bit, and whatever it is we're looking at ought to move. Once we've decided that what we are looking at is what we want to be looking at, we've centered it in the through what we're looking at in the ocular lens, so that we actually have whatever it is we want to focus in on in the center of the field of view. We then flip to the 10x objective, which gives us a total of 100x magnification. At this point, we want to adjust the focus a little bit using our fine focus knob. And then once we have that in focus, and once we have whatever it is we want to be looking at centered, and if we indeed want to go to a higher magnification, we then switch to the 100x objective. Sorry, the 40x objective. So with the 40x objective in place, we now have a total of 400-fold magnification because the ocular is supplying an additional 10-fold magnification. Again, we're going to adjust the fine focus a little bit, and we're going to make sure that everything is nice and sharp and centered however we want it. Usually, this is where we're going to stop with these microscopes in this class. But it is possible to go further than that, and in fact, I've given slide focusing demonstrations looking through the ocular lens where I've actually gone further than this. So you can see here we've got the 100x objective lens. So that's called the oil immersion lens, and that's because we use something called immersion oil. And what we do is once we've got the 40x objective, everything is focused and centered and right where we want it, we move aside, taking the 40x and moving it aside, and this is between the 40x objective and 100x objective. We put a drop of oil right here, right on our specimen. I'm not doing it because I've already made enough of a mess today and I don't feel like cleaning it more. But there would be a drop of oil sitting right there, right on the slide. And we wouldn't move the 40x objective into that oil because that's known as the high and dry objective. It's not supposed to go into oil, but the oil immersion lens, the 100x objective, would go right into that oil. And then once again, we would adjust the fine focus and make sure everything is where we want it in terms of what we're looking at and how in focus it is. Sometimes when you go to the oil immersion lens, you're going to have to increase the amount of light, and the way you would do that is by adjusting the iris diaphragm down here just a tiny little bit. Now, when I come to people's microscopes and they're having a lot of trouble getting their specimen into focus, the first thing I'll look for is the amount of light coming out. If almost no light is coming out of the light source, I'll say, well, you should increase the amount of light coming out. I will check when they've got this at higher magnification, such as the 40x or even the 10x. If I can get my finger between the lens and the specimen, I know that whatever it is they're looking at is not in focus. I mean, if I can do that, there's no way they're focusing in on the slide. Of course, I can look through the slide and I can move it around and see whether or not whatever they're looking at is on the slide. And then the next thing I will do is I will make sure that there isn't too much light coming out through the top here, and you adjust that amount of light using the iris diaphragm adjustment. So if you had the iris diaphragm all the way open, you would have a huge amount of light. If you had it all the way closed, you'd have almost no light at all coming through there. So the amount of light you want to come through there is just a little bit more than almost none at all. And so if I see a huge amount of light coming through there, I know that their problem, at least in part, probably is that they have the iris diaphragm too far open. Okay? When you're done, you of course remove the slide. You'll want to clean things off as best you can. When you're cleaning the lenses, you're going to use lens paper, and we have some lens cleaning fluid somewhere around here as well. You turn off the microscope. That's a switch right there. You unplug the microscope. You then wrap the cord around back here, which is a little clumsy on these scopes. Tie the thing in place, or at least try to. I might have sort of gotten it right. And then when you move your microscope back to wherever you found it, you move it holding it with two hands, okay? And one thing you absolutely should never do is you should never grab the scope right here, because this part of the scope actually can pop right off. So you move around these scopes, your hand, one hand in here, I mean, it actually feels like the hand should go there, and the other hand is under there. Okay? I think that's pretty much everything.